right, let's try this again. Welcome to today's IGTV. I'm talking about how to deal with your negative teen when no matter what you're trying or what's happening in their life, everything sucks and I hate this. This food is disgusting. I don't like that person. I don't like your clothes. Your hair is terrible. Whatever it is. Whatever it is, they got something to say about it. I am so glad you are joining me. Sorry about that little internet hiccup there. I don't know what happened. Gotta love technology, right? So thank you for coming back. We are going to jump in today and I'm going to explain to you why this is happening and what doesn't work and what does work to navigate this difficult time with a very negative, complainy teenager. All right. My name is Allie Payne. I am a certified life coach, certified relationship systems coach. I've been working with parents and teens for 15 years to help them end the painful disconnection, emotional blowups, and stressful silences to build relationships based on trust and respect. I came from a rather traumatic background, emotional, physical abuse, an eating disorder for 14 years, a suicide attempt, going from straight A's to failing out. And what I share here is about what my experience as a teen, everything I've learned in 25 years of pursuing healing and certification and training, and having raised two incredible sons myself. So I hope that you find this helpful. You can find me here on Instagram at Allie Payne, YouTube, Allie Payne, and TikTok at Allie Payne, as well as my website, alliepayne.com for more resources. All right, let's jump in. Okay, why is your teen so negative? So it literally can feel like your once relatively happy, kind of friendly young child who was like kind of positive. I mean, they had moods, of course, but whether you have a tween or a teen, this can feel like, what was in your cereal this morning? Or did you not sleep at all? Or like, why are you so cranky? And there's a couple things that go on. Your natural fight or flight response gets triggered in your brain when your teenager is being or doing a way that is pushing your buttons. Like being really negative and only seeing the dark and everything. And it seems like they're choosing this. Like, why would someone choose this? Why would you just choose to be so negative? Like, what is your problem? So it pushes your buttons. So your natural reaction is to suppress or change them because it's uncomfortable. Like, nobody wants to be around someone who's a negative Nelly all the time, right? The problem is that can make things worse, even though that is a natural response. So I want you to know right here, right now, this isn't necessarily your teenager's choice. It's not a conscious choice, okay? I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about that in one sec. And number two, this isn't about you. So long as you are going to take all of this negativity really personally, your brain will remain in a hijacked state and you will be engaging in more conflict than what is necessary because this isn't personal and it is not about you. All right? Okay, let's jump in. So again, your teen is defensive, complaining, angry, pissy. Sorry, I'm just reading my notes here. A lot of this comes from fear and not knowing what they do want. Now I know like that seems, okay, the internet is driving me crazy today. Thank you for your patience. I know that seems crazy that your teenager doesn't know what they do want. It's a function of their developing brain. It is not a function of their intelligence. So please do not make that up, okay? So they're afraid. There's a lot of fear, and I'll explain that in a second. They don't know what they do want, and they don't know how to ask for what they do want. Self-advocacy. So what you hear instead is about everything they don't want and everything they don't like in detail, all the time, every moment. because their brain, they're not happy. There's a lot that's not working for them, but they're not yet at the stage of development where they don't feel so afraid in their new brain, and they do have the emotional vocabulary to ask for what they do want. Okay, so that's why you're getting this. So let me do a little description for you first of the teenage brain. I really have to have my notes with me. I am a squirrel brain, and otherwise we're going to end up talking about things that I don't even know what we came for. So, internet is driving me crazy. Okay, so let me describe the teenage brain for you for 1 second. In adolescence, this is the second and final growth phase of the brain. I don't just mean development, I mean actually growing. Their brain is going from a simple computing system to a far more complex computing system necessary to be a successful adult. The densification process is called myelination. So what your teenager knew about themselves and they liked about their world, their life as a child, that just disappeared, because their brain actually does a process called pruning, and it removes good, really good neural pathways in the brain. Why? It removes really good ones that they liked and felt safe and confident with, in order to replace that one neural pathway with 10 more necessary for complex decision-making, critical analysis, independent thought, complex versions of self-identity, okay? So these are all necessary in brain development, but I don't know about you, if what you knew about your world to be true and you knew about yourself and you liked, all of a sudden got thrown up in the air, made way more complicated, and you had no manual, no GPS to figure out where everything was now, I think you'd be a little, goodness, this internet is going to drive me crazy. I think you'd be a little bit grumpy too. Okay. So what you are seeing is a function of, they are now in an entirely new neighborhood. Okay, everything they knew, like the simple street they lived on and the houses were like across the street, and they knew their house had the yellow door and they knew how to get there. That is not what's in there anymore. But nobody warned them this was coming, and no one can go in and help them. They are now on a street they did not know. There is high rises. They don't know where their door is. There is no street lights, and they are there alone. You would be grumpy. You would be grumpy and scared. Okay? And there is no map, there's no GPS, there's no nothing. They just have to figure this out. So this is a function of where they're at right now. Now, let me be really clear with you. Our brains are wired for negativity. Okay? Our brains are wired for negativity. The only reason you and I, as perhaps, I don't know, it's all relative, and a more evolved or mature adults don't constantly complain about every single thing, is because we have the prefrontal cortex and frontal lobes that are more developed for a set of like mindfulness, mindful skills, that we know that there's things in the world that irritate us and there's people in the world that irritate us, but we have an override, an intellectual override that doesn't let it like hijack our whole day, let's hope, or hijack our whole life, let's hope. Right? And so we don't have to complain about everything that we don't like, because we have a more developed brain that also can filter some of those things, and a developed vocabulary and thinking, so we can identify what we don't like about that. How could we change it? Maybe we can or we can't. How do we set boundaries around it? And then more importantly, how do we ask for what we want? Your teen does not have that. So please don't expect them to, because they don't. They do not have that capacity right now. That will not come. This brain growth phase is about 13 to 18. It's a significant period of about 2 years, somewhere in between 13 to 18, which is all the new hardware. They're actually growing gray matter, but the new software their brain is developing, that continues until about 25. Okay? So here is Okay, oh, here's the other thing. So their brain is wired for negativity and they don't have the intellectual override, okay? They are afraid, period. They're afraid because they don't know who they are and they relative to who they were. So this developing, this complex self-identity, which is introspective, okay? It's a psychological and physiological process in the brain. As their new and more complex self-identity is developing, it needs to literally erode what was. So that phase where they're figuring out who they are and they only know what they don't like, but they don't really know what they do like yet, that can last a while too. And in that stage is where their self-confidence can tank up to 30%. Because they're figuring out who they are. And let me tell you, if this process happened as an adult, there would be drugs for that. There would be serious drugs for that, like psychosis. Can you imagine how terrifying that is? So there's fear and they don't know who they are, or like, who am I now? Also, the third thing I wanted to say is that their entire world changed in a pandemic. Their entire world changed. And for many teens, depending where you live in the world, that life that they knew and loved before is still not back. And we can't tell our teens when it's coming back or if it ever will. So there is a state of situational in this pandemic. There is a state of hopelessness, which prolonged over time can build anxiety, hopelessness again, anger, because there's a grieving that this whole world has not really maybe given ourselves time to grieve what was when we don't know yet what it's going to look like. And so that some of that negativity is coming purely from that. Okay. So those are 3 reasons. Okay. Yeah, absolutely, Christine. The pandemic is critical. It is a massive part of why you're getting this angry, negative, defensive, pissy teenager that nobody can fix. We're not here to fix our teenager, okay? So let's move on quickly before this internet decides to seriously have me just choke it off. I don't know what it is with the connection today. Here's what doesn't work. Here's what doesn't work. Now, I already talked a little bit about this in the beginning, but I'm going to address this a little bit more. It does not work for you to be hugely invested in cheering your teenager up. Please do not go on, pick up your sword and march up the hill to cheer your teenager up. I understand that you love them. I understand you want the best for them. I understand you want them to have a great experience of their life. But just because they're in this really natural negative stage where their brain, their own brain, is almost always in a mild state of fight or flight, and they are highly reactive because their amygdala is left not fully covered by their frontal lobes, prefrontal cortex that does the filtering. So their amygdala is a lot left uncovered, okay? No, Rita, I'm not going to talk about that in this live. Right now, we're just sticking to the topic of negative teens. So cheering your teenager up is toxic positivity. That is not a term that I came up with. Okay. I know the word toxic is thrown around all the time right now. It's like really sexy. That is called toxic positivity. You are trying to cheer your teenager up by saying things like, well, at least it's a sunny day out, or, well, something good must have happened today. I mean, you got to see your friends. You have a safe home to live in. Like, you're not living in a country of war. Like, you're trying to force down your teenager's throat reminders of what is working. You are trying to control their perspective by changing theirs. You're trying to control their perspective by changing their current frame in the world, by forcing positivity and reminding them what is good, or only talking to them about good emotions, which don't even get me started how toxic that is. All emotions are human, okay? All emotions are human. All emotions are necessary for the complete and full human experience in this world. So can we please stop labeling feelings as negativity being bad, defensiveness being bad, being pissy, being angry, being bad? They're all human. Period. Yes, Swiftie girl, it is 100% exhausting. So here's my tips on this. Please stop shoving positivity down their throat. It is invalidating. If you were having a really bad day and someone came up to you, you know the statement, just like, just calm down, like just relax. I go straight to throat punch. Are you kidding me? How invalidating that is when someone is just trying to smear over what you're feeling because they are uncomfortable with it. So they want you to be positive because those are good feelings. Please don't do that. Okay? If you are uncomfortable around your teen, and this is exhausting, you're going to need breaks from your teen. Well, good news. Your teenager doesn't want to spend every day and every moment with you either. So it's hard to be around someone who's really negative. So take breaks. Create limited quality contact as opposed to quantity in this phase so that you can be around your teenager and love and accept them for where they're at as a function of their physiologically changing brain, not because they're choosing to be so negative. That is not true. So let go of that. This is not a conscious choice. They don't have that installed yet. They are operating based on the current development level of their amygdala, their prefrontal cortex, and their frontal lobes. That's what you get. It's raw, reactive, and negative, okay? Now, the other thing that doesn't work, can you share with your teen that you need a break? You know what, Kelly? I think it's okay to say, you know what? You don't need a break from them, but okay, let me get to that in 1 second, Kelly. So what you don't want to do is suppress their negativity. So toxic positivity is one, is shoving positivity down their throat. The second way is telling them to stop feeling that way. Like you're not trying to force positivity. You're just trying to be like, oh my gosh, stop being so negative. You're shaming them and criticizing them for a natural stage of brain development that they didn't opt in for. In fact, nobody told them it was going to happen. Awesome. If you're going to empower them, why don't you play them one of my videos or the article I just wrote on my blog, alipayne.com blog, just scroll back a couple. Why are you being so difficult? That explains everything about the brain development. Why don't you empower them to let them know this is a natural and normal thing for you to just know what you don't like about the world and not know who you are or what you like or how to express that or ask for it. And that's a really hard place to be. It's a really rough place to be when all you know is what you don't like, but you can't express or know what you do like. And that's okay. It's hard. It's hard for you. It's hard for me because I feel like I can't get that for you. So you can empower them with that, but trying to suppress or stop them from feeling this way is shaming, criticizing, it's invalidating, and again, you're going to get more of it. So, oh my God, and listen, I'm just going to say, I've been through this with my kids, so it is really hard to not like come in the door and they start complaining and you slam the groceries down on the table and be like, can you just stop complaining for 1 second? Or can you stop being so negative for 1 second? I get it. Bless all of you. I get it. It is hard. And there's no perfect. So can we just let that go right now? There's no perfect. Do your best to model regulation. When you feel that, allow yourself that feeling, validate yourself, and take a breath. Because that helps your nervous system to calm. So then you can say to them, yeah, I get that sucks. That would be hard. And that's it. So validate and empathize. Validate and empathize. I have lots of videos on my YouTube channel, how to provide support that works. I've got lots of TikToks about validating and empathizing. You can find those at Allie Payne on both TikTok and YouTube, and here on Instagram, or message me here on Instagram and I'll send you a couple of them. Exactly how to empathize and validate. So if they come to you and they're like, school sucked today, my teacher like gave us all this homework and it was so lame. You can just be like, hey, yeah, this internet is gonna kill me. You can just be like, yeah, I get it. That would suck. Yeah, I ate that too. Leave it at that. Because if you now follow that up with what would you like to have happened, they don't know that yet. They're not there yet. And they will see that as another form of invalidation. So leave it at empathizing and validating and let it go. There is something that happens in the brain around being heard. It creates emotional safety and psychological safety, and the brain is more willing to release the current feelings, whatever those are, because we don't label them, release those feelings and move on to whatever the next feeling is when we feel fully heard and seen where we are at. Not when we feel fully tried to be changed, when we feel fully heard and seen for where we're at. So validate, be like, yeah, that does suck. I'm sorry, hun. I know homework just sucks. You know, or that's frustrating when your teacher does that for sure. Yeah. Just validate. They're right about their feelings anyway. So you can either try and change them and disconnect your relationship, or you can make them right about their feelings. That doesn't mean that you agree. Empathy does not mean agreement. Empathy means a willingness to take someone else's perspective as they would have experienced it, not as you would have experienced it. To fully try on someone else's experience, emotional or physical experience, as they experienced it, not as you believe it would have been. That's empathy. Nothing in there says agreement. Nothing. If you can find me a definition that says agreement, you send it to me. Doesn't exist. Okay? Empathize and validate. These are hard years for them. They're really hard years, and nobody told them that this was going to happen in their brain. So they're scared, they're lost, and they're struggling, and they're doing the best they can. Okay? Now, here is the part that you can do, but not in the moment. Not in the moment. Unfortunately, contrary to cultural belief, we as human beings are not born with the capacity to develop emotional vocabulary for self-expression. We are born having the capacity for emotional experience, and we have it. We are not born with like a little slot that you insert a chip, that all of a sudden now their emotional vocabulary goes from approximately 6 to 8 when they're children to some growth phase of up to 88, which is now studied and documented by Dr. Brené Brown in her newest book, Atlas of the Heart. They don't just get that chip. That's up to you and me. It's up to you and I. The 2 things I recommend. First of all, get Atlas of the Heart. She wrote that book with the intention that families would sit down and read it together. So get the book, Atlas of the Heart. Get it. My second thing is I use with all of my clients the Feeling Wheel by Dr. Gloria Wilcox. You can get a copy if you go to the link in my bio. There's free downloads, the Feeling Wheel. You can get it there, or you can go to my website. Under resources, free downloads, the Feeling Wheel is there. And I say, so this isn't for in the moment when your teenager's really complaining and they're in like a mild state of fight or flight, defensive and pissy. Validate, empathize, let it go. When they're in a more regulated state. Now I say always dinner time, but dinner time can be hard too if they sit down, they're like, this food tastes disgusting. I hate this. I'm not eating it. Validate. Just validate and empathize how hard it must be to not feel like you ever get the food that you like. Just validate. It's not about you. It's not about you. Developing emotional vocabulary for powerful and effective self-expression comes through learning emotional words. Again, Brené Brown has studied, there's now approximately 88. So bring the feeling wheel. I say keep it on the fridge and then bring it to every mealtime. And here's the tool that I use. At every mealtime, on the feeling wheel, you start, because you're the leader, you talk about a feeling that you had that day. Optionally, you may share what was happening when you had that feeling, okay? Now, you do this consistently and from now until the end of time because you're the leader. Parents say to me all the time, well, what if my teenager doesn't want to participate? I don't care. You are the leader, so make it normal. And it can take up 3 weeks to a month for your teenager to believe this is actually going to last and this is safe for them to participate. So you keep doing it like you have never invested in something so much that's free, okay? And your teenager, if they choose, can share a feeling off the feeling wheel that they had that day. Or alternatively, you can bring the Atlas of the Heart book and talk about some of the feelings that she talks about in the book, okay? Optionally, your teenager can share what was going on for them around that feeling. They don't need to. That may not feel psychologically safe for them at this time. If your teenager chooses to participate, when they share their feeling, all you say is thanks for sharing. That is all. I know you're dying to get curious. I know you want to know more about what happened and who said what and what was going on. Stop. That feels like interrogation for your teenager. If you want to build emotional safety and psychological safety to help your teenager build emotional vocabulary for self-advocacy, you got to go baby steps. Baby steps, because their brain is learning this. It doesn't have it, okay? So if your teenager chooses not to participate, you're like, great, that's cool. Make them right for not sharing. Not wrong. No shaming, no blaming. Just, okay, cool. And you do it anyway. And then if they choose to participate, they can either share just the feeling, or if they want, they can talk about what was going on around it. No questions, no judgment, no correction, no interruption, nothing. Just thanks for sharing, because you're building emotional and psychological safety. In doing so, when they can start to express how they're feeling, moving forward, rather than constantly complaining about what they don't want, it will help them to more effectively express what they're feeling about what they don't want, which Dr. Brené Brown has now proven when we have emotional vocabulary, we can effectively articulate how we're feeling, including complaining. That is the only way for our brains to properly process, heal from, and release any feeling. Otherwise, it just gets trapped all back in there and you get more complaining. So first step is First step is they need to learn how to explain, how to articulate how they're feeling. Otherwise, it's all going to be complaining, negativity, defensiveness, and angry. That would be normal, right? Like think of a 2-year-old. They don't have emotional vocabulary either. Also, the first growth phase in the brain. The teen is the second. It's the same, okay? Just because they walk and talk and dress themselves and you don't have to change their diaper now doesn't mean they automatically have all this installed in their brain. They don't. When they know how to explain how they're feeling, that's step 1. And this takes time. Then, and only then, can you start to ask them, and not in the moment, never in the heat of the moment, can you ask them, hey, you know how you were, frustrated that your teacher did XYZ with this, earlier today? What did you want to happen? Like if you could make it up. If you could make it up and had a magic wand, so like nothing is out of question. Doesn't matter how outlandish it is. And you say to them, what would you want it to have happen? Let them go there. Whatever answer they give is fine and right. No judgment, no fixing, no correction, and no interruption. And you're like, yeah, Validate and empathize the answer. Whatever they answer, validate and empathize. Yeah, that would have been way better, hey? That would have been awesome. Yeah, for sure. Thanks for sharing that with me. That's it. That's all. That's step 2. So you are slowly helping their brain to develop effective emotional vocabulary, how to start talking about what they do want. Then step 3 would be how to actually ask for what they want, which for teenagers is terrifying because their self-esteem already tanks up to 30%. They are so wildly susceptible and emotionally reactive to criticism, comparison, and judgment. So their filter is on high alert, even if that's not what you're saying or that's not what 100 other people would have said. They would have said they're being criticized and judged. So asking for what they want with other people in authority, like a teacher or even a friend, is so extraordinarily life-threatening for teens, like life-threatening, because their brain has them think that they're going to burst into flames. If they say something wrong or they say something in a way where someone else is going to be angry at them or not like them, they're literally going to burst into flames. So that's step 3, is actually supporting them to carry through self-advocacy, to explain how they're feeling, to ask for what they want in respectful ways so that they can start. Okay, I'm going to end this before I end my internet. So they ask for what they want in respectful ways. This takes time. So the number one thing that you need, that I wrote here, you need patience. This just generally takes a lot of patience. And to answer your question about, do you tell them you need time away from them? No, you don't tell them that. You just make sure you get time away from them. Because guess what? Your teenager doesn't want to spend every moment with you either. So just aim for quality, short periods of time, as opposed to trying to create quantity of time when it's difficult to be around them when they're really negative. Let them be negative. Let them spend more time in their rooms. Go for walks. Spend time away from them so that your capacity to be around their natural and inherent negativity is not always so low that you are in reaction yourself, that you're trying to shove positivity down their throat, you're trying to suppress or stop asking why you're not there. Oh, Island Dream Big. Okay, so you're doing that and they are asking why you're not there. So just tell them, you know what? I feel like I'm needing some alone time. I have a lot to process and I just feel like I need more alone time right now. So assure them that you love them and that if they need you there, you'll be there if you need them there, okay? But that you're not, because they'll make up that it's about them and that they'll feel abandoned. And this is the worst part in their negativity in this really hard place, is they're being asked to carry all of this by themselves, because ultimately we can never carry anyone else's feelings for them. And yet it's so frightening. They want us to do it with them, but it's so hard for us because it's so negative. And we're like, nah. So you're in like this lose-lose situation, right? You can't fix them. You can't change them. You're trying to take care of yourself in the process, but they're afraid and they want you to be with them. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my mind, right? So it's hard. Take patience. Communicate, make sure they know that you love them no matter how they are. Your love is unconditional. Your love is not conditional for them only when they are positive feelings. Please friggin' stop labeling feelings. They're human feelings. They're all the human experience. Stop labeling them as bad or negative or parts that need to change. Validate and empathize. Let them know you love them regardless. Let them know this is a hard time and that no one told them this phase was going to happen to them either. And if you're looking for more resources, message me on Instagram at Allie Payne, or you can contact me off Instagram. On my profile, it says email. You can send me an email. On TikTok, it's harder for me to get to messages at Allie Payne, or here on YouTube, hit the follow button and you can message me below the video and I'll get you whatever I can. Yes, they are. The elevated parent, yeah, teenagers are a bit of a challenge because of they get a different brain. They get a different brain, and we need to understand that. So thank you for tolerating my incredibly frustrating internet with me today. This is going to be posted on my Instagram profile and on YouTube. Hit the follow button, and I look forward to seeing you next Thursday here on Instagram Live at 11 a.m. Pacific time. I am live on TikTok every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific. And if you don't already get my articles, tips, insights, then you're going to want to hit the link in my bio here on Instagram or TikTok and get weekly parenting tips, and you will be getting all the goods right to your inbox so that you can be part of my tribe. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a great week. Bye.